Last time we looked at something called the equation of a line in something called slope-intercept form. Do you remember what it was? Y equals to mx plus b, right? Where m stands for the slope and b stands for the y-intercept. Good. Now, before I begin the next part, just listen and watch this part first of all, okay? When we did this last day, this format, and once again, don't write this down, just watch, was good when I gave you the slope, which let's say for instance was 3, and I gave you the y-intercept number, let's say it's 2. That was easy because you just plugged it in like this, right? Then I gave you questions like this, where I gave you the slope, let's say it's 3, but then I didn't give you the y-intercept. I gave you something called a point. Okay, let's say the point is 1, 5. Now what did we do to try to solve this question? Well, I hope you remember what's the first thing we do? Plug in what? The point right away? Not so fast. Plug in the slope first, right? And then afterwards we plug in the point. Yes. And we plug in the point and we try to find the y-intercept, right? And I think these are some of the questions where you guys were like, man, this is so much work, especially when we got those fractions and you started like, twitching. Okay? So what I want to show you today is when we have this type of situation, well, guess what? You don't always have to use this form of the equation of a line. I'm going to show you today another form. And today's form, okay, will be something a little different. It's called the slope point form. All right, let's take a look at number 1. Given that we have a line with slope -4 and passes through this point, I want you to find the equation of a line using the definition of the slope. Okay, now what do I mean by definition of a slope? Let's think about this. Slope equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1, right? Say with me. All over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Good. Okay? So the idea of the slope is that it's the change in the two y values divided by the change in the two x values. Okay? Let's see if we can actually draw the line first, and then we'll use that line to come up with this new type of equation. The point P is 2, -2. So from the origin, go 2 to the right, then 2 down, and put a big P there, point. And then it says we have a slope of -4. So remember how we find another coordinate on this grid using the slope of -4? Do you remember how we do that? The up, down, left, right stuff? If I said the slope is equal to -4, in terms of moving up and down, what do we do? 4 down, yeah. And then how many to the right? 1 right. Good. So go 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 to the right. Okay? If you want to do it again, go 4 down, 1 to the right. And then let's connect them together. Okay? Whee! Okay, connect the dots. So do that, and then I'm going to show you how we can use this line to help us with this new form of the equation. Okay? Okay. Can you please also label this point P? We'll call it 2, -2. Okay. And you know that when we look at the slope, we need 2 sets of coordinates. We need like an x1, y1, which we've got, but we need another set of coordinates. Now, you can actually tell me the set of coordinates because I've told you this point works, this one down here works. But what happens if I want you to just tell me an equation that describes every single point on this line? Okay? So no longer am I looking for just a particular number. I want all the different types of numbers. So here's what you can do. I want you to pick something that represents every single possible number on this line. And I'm going to just use this to represent every single possible number, an x and a y. Okay? Remember, our equations always have x and y. That's why I'm using x and y. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I'd like us to do. Take these 2 coordinates, 1, 2. Take the slope number, negative 4. And let's now fill in all this stuff over here in our slope formula. Okay? So let's take a look. What's m again? It's the slope. What is that equal to in this case? Negative 4. Good. Okay, so write that down, please. Now we have the y2 minus y1, so let's keep x1, y1 as the coordinates we know. And let's just assume x2, y2 is this x and y that we don't really know. So if I were to now ask you to fill in the numbers, y2 represents the letter y, y1 represents negative 2. So let's plug these in as well. Y, take away negative 2. And can someone help me out with the x2 minus x1? What would that be? X minus 2. Good. Okay. We're going to clean this up a little bit because I don't like having the two negatives here. So the two negatives on the top become a positive. Thank you. So y plus 2 over x minus 2. And I hate fractions. I think you do too. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this denominator and I want to move it up into the numerator over here on the left side. The opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to write this as negative 4 bracket x take away 2 equals to y plus 2. And most of the times in your textbook, what you'll see is that the y stuff happens on the left side and the x stuff happens on the other side. So we're just going to switch this around, okay? So I'm just going to switch it around to make it look nicer. To y plus 2 equals to negative 4 bracket x minus 2. And ladies and gentlemen, this now is the equation of that line. Okay. So you're thinking, Mr. Lee, we learned the equation of a line last day. You're right. You're learning the equation of a line again today. You're right. But this is a different way of writing the same equation. Okay. This is called the equation of a line in, and please write this down, slope point form. Okay. Why does that work? It's because this equation, can you see how there's a slope number? Okay. And there's also a point. So that's why they call this the slope point form, because the slope and the coordinates of the point can easily be identified. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do today is come up with an equation for what we call slope point form, and then we're just going to use that equation to graph out lines, plot points, all that kind of stuff we did last day. Okay? Now I haven't shown you the equation yet, but I like to do that right now with you underneath. Okay? But before I show you the equation, I want to make one more connection between how this weird line is actually the same thing as what we did last day. Okay? How can I convert this form into what we call slope-intercept form? So how can I go from this ugly thing with the brackets to y equals mx plus b? Well, here's what I'd like us to do. Let's do some algebra. So can we just copy the equation first of all? Let's copy the equation. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, let's see if you can do some algebra to make it look like y equals to mx plus b. Okay? Any suggestions of what I should do first here? First of all, the previous equations, y equals mx plus b, had no brackets. So I think you should try to get rid of the brackets. Distribute. Thank you. What's negative 4 times x? Negative 4x. Good. What's negative 4 times positive 2? Negative 8. We still have the y plus 2 on the left-hand side. That's good. This looks a little bit better. But remember, it's y equals to mx plus b, not y plus 2. So what do we do next? Get rid of that 2. Yes? Oh, what do you mean, negative 2? Thank you. Oops. Thank you. Thank you. You see what I did a mistake here, everybody? The box one here is negative 2, but I made that plus 2. Sorry, sorry. Erase, erase, erase. Thank you, Patrick and Lawrence. Thank you. Thank you. Here's a present. Half a pencil. You want half a pencil? Oh. Lawrence want half a pencil? fine. Sorry, -4 times -2 is +8. My fault. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. So now with this, how do I solve for y? You're going to subtract 2 off of both sides. So now we have y equals to -4x. And what's 8 minus 2? That's 6. Okay. And there's the exact same equation. Okay, so same. Okay, these two things are the same. But now you have slope intercept form. Okay? And if I drew my line right over here, I think you should see that this thing goes through 6, right? It's hard to draw a line. Let me erase that line. Let me just draw this better. Okay. Nice, 6. Okay? So ladies and gentlemen, we're doing the exact same thing as last day, except now the equation looks different. But what I just showed you here is we can always convert it and make it look the same. Okay? All right. Here's the big thing for today. Let's try to find a formula for the slope point form. Okay? So the slope point form is always this. You have one point. Okay? So this is the point you have. You know. Okay? And then there's a point you don't know. Okay? So this is the one you don't know. Okay? Bless you, bless you. Okay? So how do we actually come up with the equation? Well, remember, what's the equation for the slope of a line? M equals, and it's y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So let's go ahead and review again. Please write that down. Okay. Okay. Now, the point we know already is x1, y1, so let's just keep those as is. Okay, so let's replace the y2 and the x2 with the ones we don't know, which is the x and y. So now let's have m equals to y, take away y1, over x, take away x1. And we're going to do the same thing as we did before. I don't like the fractions, so what do I do with that x minus x1 in the bottom? Take it to the other side. So if I do that, I get m bracket x minus x1 equals to y minus y1. And then once again, people in math like putting the y's on the left side, so I'll just switch it. So maybe I won't say or, I'll say switch. And ladies and gentlemen, here's the lovely formula you need to work with today. Y minus y1 equals to m times x minus x1. Okay. And this is the big thing for today, so I've got this big scroll on the bottom. Here's the big thing, the equation of a line that passes through a point, and we'll call that known point, x1, y1, and has a slope that equals to a known value, which is m. Well, here's the equation, y minus y sub 1 equals to m bracket x minus x sub 1. Okay? Get that into your head. Next page. Okay, so here's our example number 2. I've given you this equation, and it's in this weird slope point form. I want you to compare it to point slope form and find out what point the graph passes through and tell me the slope of this graph. So as a quick review, let's write out what the point slope form is, and I'll try to write it underneath here. So it's y minus y1 equals to m bracket x minus x1. So I'd like you to compare, okay? Compare. Tell me, what's the slope? By comparison, can you tell me what the slope is then? -2/3. Excellent. Okay? Now, the next one's a little bit trickier. What's the actual coordinates of the point? So I want you to compare, and tell me what the x coordinate is, and also tell me what the y coordinate is going to be. 5 and 4. Positive or negative? Negative 5, positive 4. Anybody else? 4 and negative 5. Anyone else? Okay. Listen up, okay? Just put on your pens. Listen up first, okay? Listen, listen, listen. Okay, let's do the y part first, okay? y1 is the number that goes after the minus sign. So what's the number that goes after the minus sign here? It's just 5. So the actual y coordinate is 5. Okay? Hey, I said put your pens down. Okay? Now with the x, you see how this one is x1, the point, the x coordinate of the point is after the minus sign? Do you see a minus sign there? Do you see a minus sign here? There's no minus sign. It's a plus sign. Uh-oh. But you can rewrite this as x minus negative 4, can we not? You see two negatives make a plus? So what's your x coordinate here going to be then? It's actually negative 4. Okay, now write this down, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this too, because this is where people get messed up. Okay, so write this answer down, please. Okay. This is so crazy. It's confusing, I know. Okay, so write this down first, and I'll tell you a quick and easy way of figuring out the point. Okay? Okay, write this down first. Okay, because there's the minus sign in that formula, what I want you to understand is that your point is always opposite of whatever signs you see. Okay? So if you see minus 5 over here, the opposite should be positive 5. If you see plus 4, the opposite should be minus 4. Okay? So just notice that these coordinates for the points, and I'll give you a little note, okay? The coordinates of the point is opposite, meaning negative, right? Opposite of what you see in the equation. Okay, and we'll do more practice with this in a second, but this is the easiest way of figuring it out. Okay, so the point and the equation, the symbols or the signs are opposite. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, can you actually graph this out for me now? You have a point, you have the slope. Go ahead and graph this out. Okay, on your own. Please try. So we'll plot the first dot. That's negative 4, comma 5 way up here. And then the slope is negative 2 over 3. I'll go down 2 and then right 3 units. Here's my second dot. And let's just connect them together. If you drew a line like this, I am very happy. Okay? Done. So this example is an equation in point-slope form. And once again, to graph something, all you need is one point and the slope. In this particular example, they give you the point. It's negative 4, comma 5. They give you the slope, negative 2 or 3. Do your stuff. You're done. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you example number 3 where we go backwards now. So I give you some information. You find me the actual equation. Okay? So let's see if we do number 3 together, and I'll let you try the exercise underneath on your own. Today's lesson is actually pretty quick, which is good. Find the equation of a line with slope 4 that passes through this point, 2, comma 5, using the point-slope form. But then I said, go ahead and take your answer in the point-slope form and change it into the slope-intercept form. So let's do some review from last day as well. Once again, what's the equation of the line in slope-point form? That's this, y minus y1 equals to m bracket x minus x1. Good. Okay, so there's your equation. It's time to plug in some points. I always like to plug in m first. Do we know what m is? 4. Thank you. So m is 4. Now, once again, here's the tricky part. Remember, this is positive 2, so the bracket becomes x opposite minus 2. Okay. This is positive 5 as a point, so the bracket or the y value here becomes y minus 5. Remember, always opposite. Okay, if you remember opposite, it's good. So ladies and gentlemen, you're done. This is point slope form. That's it. Yay! Okay. Now, the next part says convert it to slope intercept form. You try. We did this before. You try. Help, help, help. What should I do first to get into the slope intercept form? What should I do first? Get rid of the brackets, Anastasia says. Thank you. So I hope I do it right this time. 4 times x is, for x, 4 times -2 is -8. Okay. Almost there. Slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b. I don't want, get rid of the 5, thank you. So add 5 to both sides. -8 plus 5. You owe me $8. Your mom gives you 5. You give that 5 to me. How much do you still owe me? -3. Good. Okay. So once again, this is now the slope intercept form. Okay. Both equations represent the same line. You're wondering, Mr. Lee, why do I have to learn all these different things? What a waste of time. No comment. Okay, you just need to do that for the provincial exam. Do you know what my personal preference is? Do you know which one I like better? Which one do you think I like better? Red or black? Red or purple? I like this one actually. This is my favorite. This is what I like to use. Even in grade 11, if you have me in grade 11, this is what I like. Okay. Some teachers like this one. Whatever. Okay. By the way, Friday, you learn a third way to write the equation of a line. Oh my gosh, I know. Anyways, can you try the next one, please, on your own then? Here's an exercise. It's very similar to number 3. See if you can now figure out the point slope form and then convert to slope intercept form. Okay? You try as mine. So here's what I have. Y minus y1 equals to m bracket x minus x1. I will always plug in m first, which is -2/3. And remember, these are always opposite signs. So the y coordinate of the point is 9. I better have y minus 9. The x coordinate is -3, so I should change this to +3. Awesome. Okay, done. That's point slope form. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how do I get this into the y-intercept form? Once again, I want you to distribute. Now, be careful with the distribution here. -2/3 times x is just -2/3 times x. -2/3 times 3. What is that? That's, yeah, -6/3, which is -2. So -2. Okay. Okay. And then I'm still not done. I have to add 9 to both sides. And if you got this, give yourself a pat on the back. What? 11? You subtracted. But careful, Mehdi, opposite sign, right? So when I add 9 to both sides, -2 plus 9 is +7. Where I get the 2? I said -2/3 times 3, which is over here, is -6/3, which is -2. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay. All right. Turn the page. We got 2 more examples. We'll be done. Okay. You still not too sure, Mehdi? Ask Jerry first, okay? Okay. Example number 4. You okay, JC? All right, let's do example number 4. Okay. Now, in this question, you see how things are a little bit more complicated for you? I didn't give you the slope. I gave you 2 points. This is stupid. Okay, but still, you gotta do it. So how do you find the slope? Yeah. Go ahead now and find the slope first using that formula from section 6.1. Sing the song. Slope equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Go ahead, plug it in. Find out the answer. Okay, I'll use x1, y1 for r and x2, y2 for t. Okay, go ahead and do this. I want you to try it on your own. You've done it enough times with me to be hopefully sick of this. And when you're sick of this, that means you've mastered it, which is great. When you're sick of me, I'll be happy. Bless you. Is your answer -6? No? Did I do something wrong? It is? Okay. So now I'd like you to go ahead and write your answer in slope point form. So can you now go ahead and find the equation of a line? So now I want you to find the equation of the line in slope point form. Y minus y1 equals to m bracket x minus x1. Okay? Go ahead. Which point did you use to plug in for the equation? R and T? You did both?
I did.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you use R, here's what the answer will be. Y minus 5, right? Opposite sign. M is -6, x minus 1. That is correct if you used R. Now, don't erase if you didn't use R.
I didn't.
Okay. If you used point T, you would have had this equation. Y take away -1 is +1, -6 bracket x minus 2. Which one's right? R. Both. R. Both are correct. Okay? Both actually are the same thing. Okay? Now, if you're thinking, they don't look the same, Mr. Lee, how can you be the same thing? Well, let me just show you really quickly. You don't need to do this right now, but let me just change both of these into slope-intercept form and prove to you they're the same thing. Okay? I will distribute this. Y minus 5, just watch, you don't need to write this down, okay? I'll add 5 to both sides, y equals -6, x plus 11, okay? The one down here, if I do the same thing, y plus 1 equals to -6x plus 12. I subtract 1 on both sides. Can you see how these two are exactly the same thing? So it doesn't matter which point you actually choose, as long as those points are on the same line, the equations may look different, but they describe the same thing. Okay? All right, let's do example number 5, and then we're done for today, okay? How are we doing on this stuff? Is this stuff pretty straightforward to you? Because if it is, I'm really happy, because this is where people usually get lost and like start to cry. Half of you just want to go to sleep, I hear. I see. No? Okay, last one, and then we'll be done today. Write an equation for the line that passes through the point. Oh, look at these terms again. Parallel and perpendicular. Oh, no, Ray says. What do we know about the word parallel? Parallel lines have same what?
Slope.
Same slope. Okay. So for this equation, y equals to 2x plus 5, what's the slope in this case? The slope is 2, right? Remember, y equals mx plus b, so that's your m, there's your b, m stands for the slope. Okay. So now for part A, I'd like you to take this number of the slope of 2 and this point 1 comma -2 and let's write out the equation of a line in, and because this is the point slope form chapter, let's do that. Okay? So equation of a line in point slope form. Okay? I'll write this again. Y minus y1 equals to m bracket x minus x1. Done. And I'd like your help now. Can you please fill in the numbers for m and x1, y1. What's m in this case, dear friends? 2, right? Because this is a parallel line, so it's 2. Very good, 2. And then what's my x1, y1? Well, that's the point 1 comma negative 2. So this becomes y plus 2, yay. X minus 1, done. Good. Okay. And look, you didn't even need to use the graph. Good for you. Don't put your pencil down yet, because there's one more example. How about this one where I talk about a perpendicular line? Oh, what do we know about perpendicular and slope? Yay. Slopes are... Well, I'm trying to build in some review here too, right? Like, I'm glad you guys still know this stuff. That's awesome. And I'm glad you see the connections between all these things. I always find it hard when I learn math because, you know what, the teacher would do, okay, today we're reading this topic, and next thing another topic. I'm like, well, how are those things mixed together? They never showed me that connection. Hopefully you're seeing some connection here, right? The stuff you did before, you're using again. So if the slope of this line is negative 3, what's the slope going to be here for the negative reciprocal? 3? Remember, negative 3 is the same thing as negative 3 over 1. So when I do the reciprocal and I flip, 1 over 3, positive or negative? Positive. Good. Now go ahead, please, and find the equation of a line again in point slope form. And your answer should look something like this. And I'll wait for you guys to help me out, because you are experts now. I can feel the vibe in the room that you guys are experts. I can feel Jillian's stare as well, thinking what is wrong with Mr. Lee today. So what do we have here? Y plus 2 equals to, what's m? 1 over 3, yes. X minus 1. Hallelujah, we are done. Okay? Now, I noticed last day that all of you did not bring textbooks.